Hey everybody, and welcome back to another severe storm film or weather forecast. In this forecast, we're going to be talking about a massive weather pattern shift that is going to be very noticeable across the United States. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. We're first going to be taking a look at our temperature trends across the United States. You can see here there's very clearly a cold front here that is producing some severe weather ahead of it. Into portions of the Arklatex, back into portions of the Kentucky region, and that is eventually going to bring in some pretty cold air from Canada, and that is going to be felt through the daytime hours tomorrow for some here, as you can see, as that cold air starts to enter the northern tier of the United States, the northern plains, Great Lakes, northeast. And you can see here the collision of air masses over here in the northern plains is going to cause a winter storm. And we'll talk more about that here in just a second. But you can see here as we head into Friday, December 20th, that's when the cold air really starts to get its act together. But that's not the only thing that's noticeable. The other thing that's noticeable is this massive heat in the west that is building. That is the beginning of the weather pattern change. As we take this in towards next weekend, watch as this heat starts to build and starts to eventually move eastward. Alright, and this cold air is still very prevalent by the weekend, but man, this heat is very prevalent as well across the west, and it's soon going to be prevalent across the central and eastern states. Watch what happens with this as we head from Sunday into Christmas Eve Monday, into Christmas Eve Tuesday. Look how far that warm air has come. All right, and we're likely going to have another storm system hitting the west with some wind and rain and whatnot, and that's going to be another thing we're going to be talking about here, which could be a major player in January here. And you can see here this big heat bubble is going to be very prevalent as we head in towards Christmas Eve across much of the United States. Even as we head into Christmas Day, it is still going to be prevalent across much of the United States. Not much cold air to speak of, so sorry if y'all want a white Christmas, but it's just not going to happen. You might get a white Christmas over here where lake effect persists, but otherwise, you're not going to get a white Christmas anywhere in the United States. I hate to say that. Any snow will likely melt off very quickly with this warm air, so I'm sorry to break the bad news, be the bearer of the bad news, but this warm air is just going to be very, very raging across the United States as we head in towards the next week or so. That's not all. As we head in towards the 27th time frame, look at this. Now you're talking about as much as 20 to 30 degrees above average across the northern tier of the United States up into Canada. You could be talking about 60s as far north, maybe as the Midwest region, as well as the Great Lakes region. And we do have some cold air damming taking place, and that actually happens when there's enough warm air punching into the cold air, but the cold air is just, it's still sitting there, all right? So we have a high pressure system that's going to be sitting up here, and it's still going to be bringing down some pretty decently cold air from the north. All right, so with that warm air trying to slam into it and this high pressure still sitting here, it is going to be kind of stubborn. So that's what's going to happen into the northeast, and it's still going to feel pretty cool for you guys, but otherwise it's going to feel very warm for a lot of people in the United States. It's actually going to feel pretty toasty, if you will, down here in the portions of the southeast, maybe even as far north as the Ohio Valley as we head in towards late next week. And then as we head in towards next weekend, we start to form a storm system. All right, now you can't see it very well. This is aloft. I can't really look at the surface at this point because I need a subscription for it. But you can see that there is likely going to be a lot of cold air behind this front here. And ahead of that is a lot of warm air coming out from the Gulf of Mexico. You are likely going to start to see a severe weather threat emerge across the Arklatex as we head in towards next weekend for that cold front potential. All right, and these aren't the only areas that look to get this. Watch what this does as we head in towards Sunday, December 29th. All right, this low moves as far north as Wisconsin. And like I said, the cold front's going to be draping south. You could have severe weather maybe even as far north as the Michigan area, or maybe even as far north as northern Ohio. All right, so something to keep an eye on there. I mean, it's uncommon, but it's also not unheard of. All right, so we're going to be dealing with something that is rare, but we've seen it before. All right, so I mean, you guys might remember past times when we got warm-ups over here, so might not be anything new for those people, but for the cold lovers, I'm sorry, it's just not happening over the course of the next couple weeks as it looks right now. And now let's take a look at our jet stream to better define those storm systems for you guys. As we bring this all the way in towards Christmas week time frame, you can see here's Christmas Eve. Obviously, you know the ridge is building out here in the west and it's dominant over much of the United States. Look at this wave of energy here. All right, this might be enough to produce some strong thunderstorms, maybe in the Arklatex region, maybe even into Oklahoma as we head in towards the Christmas Eve time frame. But like I said, the bigger storm systems don't come until after Christmas. All right, here is the start of the system on Friday, December 27th, which again might produce severe weather across portions of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. All right, or otherwise known as the Arklamis. All right, so gotta watch if you live in any of those states. And then as we head in towards next weekend, this storm system just continues to amplify according to this model run, which means that anywhere where this low goes, you'd have a chance of severe weather in the same places 2 days in a row. All right, so you're talking about the Arklamis again for the day on Saturday. All right, both Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th look to be severe weather days for the Arklatex as of right now. That could change, but right now the models have been very consistent with it. So I really don't think it's going to overall change that much. But look at this as we head in towards next weekend around Sunday, December 29th here. I can't speak today, guys. You can see here is the setup. All right, here is your cold front moving from west to east. All right, it is bringing in some pretty decently cold air behind it. It is bringing severe weather ahead of it. Yes, we might have severe weather in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania back down. It is a possibility. All right, we could actually also, I think the severe weather area would be bigger because there is still some energy down there. I think the severe weather area for Sunday, the 29th, as of now, would be this area. And yes, I think it could extend as far north as Michigan. It's definitely a good possibility. So something to keep an eye on there, but things will, of course, continue to change, but we'll, of course, continue to keep you updated with the latest as we head in towards that New Year's time frame. And now taking an actual look at our precipitation here, as we take this into the daytime hours on Friday, December 20th, you can see here's that Clipper system that is going to reinforce that shot of cold air for us. So Arctic air coming out of Canada. Behind this here, you can see a few inches out of that across portions of the Great Lakes region. Not going to be a very big system, though, overall. The bigger system, again, comes as we head in towards next week, all right? We might get a little bit of snow up here, maybe making for a white Christmas. But like I said, elsewhere, it looks very unlikely. What I want you to turn your attention to is the storm that's hitting the west on Christmas Eve. All right, and we're likely going to have some mountain snow. We're likely also going to have some rain down here in California. But what I want you to notice and think about is when this trough begins to deepen. All right, here it is. As we head in towards the 27th, a low pressure will begin to form in the southern plains, and that will begin to shoot off severe weather across the Arklamis region, like I was saying before. But look at what it does. As we headed towards Saturday, December 28th, that's when the severe weather really starts to get going here. And we could have it into Tennessee as we head in towards that time frame. But as we go in towards Sunday the 29th, it still is staying sustained. All right, you still have the cold air advection coming in out of Canada, and you're likely going to have a very powerful front ripping through these areas. Like I said, wouldn't be surprised to have severe weather as far north as maybe even Ohio, maybe even portions of Michigan, like I said earlier on in the video. So something to keep an eye on as we head in towards that time frame. And then as we head in towards the new year, well, it looks like we shift up the storm track a little bit with maybe some more winter storm signals as we head in towards January. And speaking of January, let's take a sneak peek at what we can expect for the month of January here. And you can see, according to this model, it brings a pretty massive trough in here as we head in towards maybe January 10th and 11th time frame. Of course, that timing will differ, but this just tells me that it's going to get cold and potentially snowy across much of the United States. And here's an area of high pressure in the central U.S., low pressure in the northeast. You get the flow around a high pressure system, and this is going to reinforce cold, by the way, as well, with those two flows combining to create a strong northerly flow. That is going to create cyclogenesis. All right, in the middle of these two areas, I definitely think we could potentially get some snow breaking out. And where that happens, very uncertain. But like I said, the storm track is going to be very, very favorable for some big snowstorms. And right now, it looks like that storm track is likely going to be rather something like this, all right? So it comes out of Canada, and then it connects with that southern stream energy, and then goes up the east coast. So something to keep an eye on as we head in towards that time frame. Could make up for a pretty cold as well as snowy January here, and especially towards the middle part of the month, that is going to be very noticeable across much of the United States. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's all I have for ya. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.